Never start a conversation with someone saying, Vikings were just bloodthirsty raiders. That's exactly what they want you to believe. But the real Viking Age? It was so much more than axes and longships, and it's nothing like the Hollywood version. The Viking Age was a time of exploration, innovation, and yes, a fair amount of pillaging. But behind the horned helmet myth, which by the way is completely fake, lies a civilization that changed the course of history. These seafarers from Scandinavia left their mark not just in Europe but across the known world. For about 300 years they dominated the seas, built thriving settlements, and even served as mercenaries for emperors. So, who were the Vikings, really? And why did their age of dominance come to an end? Let's explore the real story of the Viking Age, the one they don't teach you in school. The challenge of understanding the Vikings is separating fact from centuries of myth. Most of what people know about Vikings comes from exaggerated tales or biased accounts written by their enemies. To Christians of medieval Europe, they were demons from the north. To modern pop culture, they're battle-crazed warriors who drank from skulls. But how accurate are these portrayals? And why do we remember them as terrifying invaders when they were also farmers, traders, and explorers? The truth lies in the gaps of history, and filling those gaps requires peeling back layers of myth and propaganda. Let's start at the beginning. Who were the Vikings? The term Viking itself isn't an ethnicity, it's more of a job description. To go Viking meant to set off on a raiding or trading expedition. These Norsemen came from modern-day Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. They weren't unified under one flag or ruler. Instead, they lived in small communities led by chieftains. What drove them to the seas? Part of it was geography. Scandinavia is a harsh land of rocky soil and long winters, making farming tough. Expanding outwards was as much about survival as it was about ambition. Their longships, sleek, fast, and capable of navigating both open seas and shallow rivers, made this expansion possible. By the late 8th century, the Viking Age began with a bang. In 793 CE, Vikings raided the monastery at Lindisfarne, an island off the coast of England. The attack was shocking, not just because of its brutality, but because monasteries were considered sacred and untouchable. For the next 300 years, Viking raids became the stuff of nightmares. They targeted coastal towns and monasteries across Europe, looting treasures and taking captives. But raiding was only part of the story. The Vikings were also incredible traders. Their trade networks stretched from the North Atlantic to the Middle East. Archaeological finds show that Viking merchants brought amber, furs, and walrus ivory to markets as far away as Baghdad. In return, they acquired silver, silk, and spices. And then there's their exploration. The Vikings were the ultimate adventurers. Leif Erikson, son of the famous Eric the Red, reached North America around the year 1000, centuries before Columbus. They called it Vinland, and evidence of their settlement has been found in Newfoundland, Canada. Meanwhile, Swedish Vikings ventured east, navigating the rivers of Russia and establishing trade routes to Byzantium and the Islamic caliphates. Culturally, the Vikings were more sophisticated than many give them credit for. They had a rich oral tradition, with sagas and poetry passed down through generations. They were skilled craftsmen, creating intricate jewelry, tools, and weapons. Even their legal system was advanced for its time, with assemblies known as things where disputes were settled and laws were made. But what about their reputation as warriors? The Vikings earned their fearsome image for a reason. They fought with brutal efficiency, wielding axes, swords, and shields. Their berserkers, warriors who fought in a trance-like fury, were the stuff of legend. Yet, they weren't just mindless brutes. Viking tactics were highly organized, and their ability to strike quickly and retreat made them nearly unstoppable. So, if the Vikings were so successful, what brought their age to an end? The decline of the Viking Age wasn't due to a single event, but a combination of factors. By the 11th century, many Viking communities had settled down. They converted to Christianity, adopted local customs, and integrated into the societies they once raided. At the same time, the rise of stronger centralized kingdoms in Europe made raids less profitable and more dangerous. Coastal defenses improved, and rulers like Alfred the Great of England fought back fiercely. The Vikings' own success as settlers also worked against them. Over time, They became less distinct as a separate culture and more a part of the regions they inhabited. And then there's climate change. The medieval warm period, which had made Viking expansion possible, gave way to a colder climate in the 13th century. This made farming even harder in Scandinavia and contributed to the decline of their settlements in Greenland. The Viking Age ended not with a dramatic fall, but with a gradual transformation. The fierce raiders of Lindisfarne became the Dukes of Normandy, the Varangian guards of Byzantium, and the farmers of Iceland. Their legacy is everywhere, in the English language, in place names across Europe, and in the DNA of millions. The Vikings weren't just warriors, they were explorers, traders, and innovators who reshaped the medieval world. Thanks for watching, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic in the comments below. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, subscribe for more incredible histories and untold stories.